Hello and welcome to CTV News Across Canada for Friday, December 19th. We've got the top local stories from coast to coast. Stories that affect you and the country. Thanks for joining us.
Premier was in Ottawa to attend a First Minister's meeting in person, but before any of that took place, we learned he was also here to sign a memorandum of understanding. Now, it's a promise to cooperate on environment and impact assessments by removing red tape. And from what the Prime Minister and Premier have said, this deal means a cooperative effort to streamline the construction process of major projects. For example, if the province has already done its due diligence on an environmental assessment, the federal government won't bother doing one of its own. So some may suggest it takes away federal oversight, but many argue it removes the redundancy. Now, here's how the Prime Minister describes it.
This agreement will speed up project approval timelines by introducing a new one project, one review approach. And under the agreement, Canada and Ontario will have a streamlined and flexible assessment process that will make approvals more efficient, delivering major projects faster while maintaining both federal and provincial standards.
Nowhere will the impact of this deal will be felt more immediately than in the development of the Ring of Fire.
Premier Ford says today's agreement is the last step in the plan to begin construction at the Ring of Fire this June. That project is a massive undertaking to create roads leading to new mining opportunities, and the deal also includes an agreement between both levels of government that a review of the assessment of the roads to the Ring of Fire will be completed no later than June 2026. Now, this could be considered a big win for the Premier. His government is suggesting the Ring of Fire project alone could add $22 billion to the economy.
Given the deficit and looking ahead to 2026, a fiscal pullback is likely on the horizon.
We have to let the growth in revenue and the growth in spending kind of match, so we need to slow down the growth in spending.
While revenue growth remains modest, up just 0.9%, spending is accelerating. Expenses were up 4.4%, or $719 million more than was budgeted for. Biggest cost drivers remained healthcare, $416 million, while government restructuring and shifting priorities cost taxpayers an additional $172 million, but Lohr wouldn't elaborate on where that spending went. And the summer wildfires, those costs soared, totaling $33 million. And natural disasters like the drought cost the Agricultural Department an extra $3 million. These pressures are fueling talks of cuts, although Lohr wouldn't say how deep, except that more details would come in the 2026-27 budget slated for release early next year.
So we have put a hiring directive in place for civil service to make sure that when we fill positions, we are strategic about it. That will result in savings over time. And we can do this without impacting frontline workers. We're also looking at reducing grants and programs across government by 10%.
Asked if government has a spending problem, Lohr didn't deny things are costing more, but got political, framing the spending as a catch-up after years of underfunding.
We had 8 years of very little investment in many of these issues. We felt the need, I know I felt that in my 8 years in opposition, let's get things done.
Opposition critics argue while spending has put the province in a record deficit, it's done little to help Nova Scotians trying to make ends meet.
That we're on is not sustainable. We see GDP growth slowing down, and they're ignoring that and spending more. What we need is an economy that matches government, and we continue to increase the size of government while our economy suffers.
While there were no concrete answers on how the government plans to cut the deficit, Minister Lohr confirmed no tax hikes are planned. Jesse Thomas, CTV News, Halifax.
Pablo Rodriguez steps to the podium for the final time as Liberal leader.
J'annonce aujourd'hui ma démission à titre de chef du Parti libéral du Québec.
He says he's leaving with his head held high, with no regrets, despite weeks of mounting controversies. Rodriguez's leadership campaign is facing allegations of a cash for votes scheme. Quebec's anti-corruption unit has opened an investigation into the party, and now further allegations that some of his donors were reimbursed for their campaign contributions. The pressure to resign became too great to withstand.
They should have taken care of this way before.
He's probably a nice guy, probably an honorable man. Made mistakes, he's got to go.
Even as he steps aside, Rodriguez maintains he personally did nothing wrong, but admits he's become a distraction.
The Quebec Liberal Party is bigger than any of us. It has weathered storms. It has risen time and time again, and it will rise again.
Liberal MNA Jennifer Macaron says the caucus remained united behind Rodriguez until the end.
Nobody was forcing Pablo out. This was, I think, an honorable decision that he made today himself to choose the party.
But she made a point to distance the party itself from the current controversies.
It wasn't about the party. It was really about an individual and about leadership race rules.
Convincing voters of that is the difficult task now facing the Liberal Party, heading into an election year.
I'm a Liberal voter. I have been for years, since my dad. I'm just really disappointed lately with a lot of what's being seen with the Liberals.
I think the Liberal Party needs a real leader, somebody that can take hold of Quebec as a whole society, and I think that's what's been missing for many years.
So Pablo Rodriguez concludes what is now the shortest tenure in the history of the Quebec Liberal Party. Next, we're told the party will hold a full leadership race around 5 to 6 weeks long. We're told that will happen as soon as possible, with the next provincial election just 10 months away. Matt Gilmore, CTV News.
Fanshawe College student Jasmine Tenenga was devastated to learn more college faculty she depends on may soon be gone.
I have to have those resources that are reaching out to me and that I can communicate with, and then by lessening the staff and lessening the availability for us, it affects us directly as students.
Students and staff at Fanshawe are absorbing the reality the college's workforce could be reduced even more. In a letter to staff, Fanshawe College President Peter Devlin said, "Our efforts to reduce our workforce have not fully reached our goal, and as a result, we'll be taking additional measures to ensure long-term stability. To support this effort, we're offering all full-time employees a voluntary exit incentive."
I deliberately announced a voluntary exit incentive before Christmas because I wanted employees to take the time to think about this opportunity. It's out of respect to our employees, out of compassion and gratitude that I've taken that approach.
Devlin says the incentive package is the same one previously offered for voluntary retirements, but has now been expanded to include all staff. It comes as the college wrestles a $70 million deficit over the next 2 years and follows the federal government's cap on international student enrollment. This past spring, the college announced it's cutting 40 programs and reducing its workforce by 400 as a result of the loss of international student tuition.
Canada is less of an appealing place for international students than it once was.
And the problem is certainly not unique to Fanshawe, with colleges across the province finding themselves in the same boat. The mass exodus of international students prompting mass layoff notices. Nearly 200 layoff notices were issued at Conestoga College in Kitchener this week. The cuts also followed a voluntary exit program offered to 700 full-time faculty. As for Fanshawe, Devlin says he's hoping the province comes through with new college funding in the spring budget.
I'm hoping that the provincial government will recognize how important the college sector is to their Protect Ontario plan.
Brian Bicknell, CTV News.
This is 33-year-old Juliana Danino, the woman police say defrauded the ESSA Minor Hockey Association out of about $78,000. While serving as its treasurer. Danino made her second court appearance in a Bradford virtual courtroom today. Police revealed in late October, Danino had been charged with fraud over $5,000 and breach of trust after financial discrepancies were discovered during a board meeting last year. Police said at the time of her arrest, $54,000 had been recovered from a former board member. Investigators said the individual within the organization responsible for managing the association's financials had committed fraud. The ESSA Minor Hockey Association revealed funds were stolen during the 2022-2023 and 2023-24 seasons. The police investigation began a year later in May of 2025. The Minor Hockey Association told CTV News the organization is run entirely by dedicated volunteers, and the actions of this individual do not reflect the values or integrity of executive members and volunteers. The association saying it has implemented stronger financial controls and safeguards to ensure the situation can never happen again. Danino is scheduled to return to a virtual Bradford courtroom in mid-January. The allegations against her have not been tested in court. Mike Arsleedy, CTV News, Barrie.
I was not allowed to have my camera on. I was not allowed to have my microphone on. And somebody read from a script saying that my position was being terminated.
Ian Jenkins says after nearly 3 years teaching at Conestoga College, he received an email around 10 this morning from Conestoga's Human Resources asking him to join a virtual meeting at 2:30. Jenkins says it was similar to how 180 support staff were laid off back in April, and he had a strong feeling about what was coming.
Less stressful if they had just sent me a video email first thing in the morning at 10 a.m., as opposed to making me wait 4.5 hours to basically have a video email anyway.
CTV News is still working to confirm how many support staff were laid off on Thursday. Vicky Poirier, president of Ontario Public Service Employees Union 238, wrote an email to members today saying, "I am deeply angered by the decision made by Dr. John Tibbetts and senior leadership to send notices of layoff and reassignment during the holiday season." In an email to CTV News, the college did not reveal how many support staff were cut, but said these difficult but necessary decisions are not taken lightly and reflect our responsibility to align resources and ensure long-term sustainability. Earlier this week, they again cited the sharp drop in international enrollment for ongoing financial pressures and staffing changes. Jenkins says all he was told was that it has to do with money.
Because the federal government has reduced the amount of international students, the enrollment is down, and if the enrollment is down, they need to cut staff in order to maintain a balanced budget.
Jenkins was an instrumentation specialist in the Health and Life Sciences Division, specializing in preparing analytical chemistry instruments and instructing students on how to use them. He says an entire course set to start in January centers around working on those instruments, and he fears for how the layoffs will impact the students.
I fear that the amount of education and hands-on experience that the students are going to get is going to be lacking. I also fear for the college itself. I think that people are doing this as a money game, and they don't see the downward spiral that they are putting themselves into.
Poirier's email to members also says we have highlighted alternative ways the college could save money and propose strategies to increase revenue. We have considered the collective agreement, exploring alternatives for maintaining employment stability. Unfortunately, our suggestions were largely ignored. Again, we are working to confirm the number of support staff affected this week. We should note earlier this year, another round of cuts affected about 180 support staff, and just this week, nearly 200 full-time faculty were laid off.
It may have been just a few items at a time, but these stolen goods taken from drugstores across Ontario, Quebec, and BC added up to millions, part of what police call a sophisticated retail theft organization.
They were stealing razors, cosmetics, creams, nicotine gum.
Today, Hamilton Police announced the results of Project Psalms, with 21 people arrested, 175 charges across 3 provinces, all done stealing small items, mostly from Shoppers Drug Mart.
The primary group targeted multiple cities and regions, carrying out their offenses in a rapid blitz-style manner.
They would take a few items concealed in a bag or clothing and then move on. This map released by Hamilton Police shows the route taken by the alleged thieves working together to hit multiple stores in a day or over a weekend, both here in the GTA and in the Montreal area, as well as BC.
Once the property was stolen from the retail locations, it was trafficked to an individual from Mississauga, and from there it was trafficked to a large-scale liquidation warehouse called the A&G Liquidations in Brampton.
Once at the liquidator, the items would then be offered for sale to the general public.
I will characterize the group as very transient in nature. And when we first discovered them operating here in Hamilton, within approximately a month and a half, they all moved to the York region.
Hamilton Police, partnering with Peel, York Region, and 4 other organizations, raided 16 locations this past Tuesday, where they were able to find product along with 6 vehicles, the alleged crimes dating back to late 2024.
Hamilton Police adding that many of the people arrested here were already wanted or facing charges for similar crimes.
What we noticed was these individuals would commit a theft, they would be arrested, they would get released on bail, and then they would do the same thing. And it was a repetitive cycle over and over and over.
Staff Sergeant Shane Coveyduck says many of the accused are family members or close friends, with as many as 9 of them living under one roof.
So we decided to engage in a criminal organization type investigation so that we can lay more substantive charges in order to hold them more accountable.
Police added that most of the accused had only been in Canada for a year and a half. Sean Leathong, CTV News.
With 320 commercial vehicles in the city's fleet, driven by 450 licensed operators, it's imperative the city keep in good standings, with the provincial agency keeping track of its violations.
We want to make sure that violation rate is reduced, because it speaks to an overall safe fleet.
Last April, the city of Greater Sudbury got a warning letter from the Ministry of Transportation that its commercial vehicle operator registration, or CVOR rating, had risen to 35%. Any operator or corporation with commercial motor vehicles must have a valid CVOR certificate. It's a provincial program that monitors operators' safety records based on factors like infractions, collisions, and inspections. The city's director of transit services says since the spring, it's added more remedial and proactive training to bring that rating down to 30%.
So we've seen improvement already this year, and that's evidence of our safety culture and the support through our driver training program. And really those that do the job.
Adair says the rating doesn't pinpoint any specific municipal vehicles that are more frequent violators.
We don't have information in terms of like a problem area. That's not the case. It was accumulative across the entire fleet.
The recent effort to reduce the violation rating led to the city approving $134,000 for an additional driver certification instructor.
Providing proactive training or reactive training. If there's any level of infraction or collision that we see, the driver training division provides safe driving tips and training.
Adair says the goal for 2026 is to reduce the city's CVOR rating even further. According to the MTO, any carrier's current safety rating can be viewed for free using its online search tool. Angela Gamble, CTV News, Sudbury.
Everything is open for review. I've said that every year, and this year is no different.
Mayor Drew Dilkens previewing his draft 2026 budget at City Hall Thursday, calling it a response to affordability pressures without putting growth on hold. The budget prepared by city administration proposes a 0% tax levy increase, down from last year's hike of nearly 3%.
I don't think residents are going to see anything outstanding in terms of service level cuts.
The mayor says getting to zero requires hard decisions inside City Hall, including deferring some work and making tough choices about what can wait. The full details of those decisions will not be made public until the budget is formally tabled later this month. The draft also includes the largest capital plan in the city's history, with more than $317 million contemplated for 2026 alone. Infrastructure remains top of mind for councillors, particularly roads that residents use every day.
I have been advocating for one particular road, which is Central Avenue. And I understand we have a lot of other roads similar or even worse than Central Avenue.
But councillors say their wish lists go beyond asphalt and include long-standing questions about public spaces and waterfront access. In Ward 7, Angelo Marignani says Sandpoint Beach was a key topic in his discussions with the mayor.
What I want to see is the fulfillment of the master plan, the Sandpoint Beach master plan.
Dilkens confirms the draft budget does include money connected to Sandpoint, and he adds while some departments are asking for more resources, hitting zero will mean making trade-offs.
We found a budget that I think is appropriate for the times, and let other folks, council can bring forward. The folks on council who don't like zero, let them bring forward additions. Let council have the debate. It's a democratic process. Council can decide whether they want to add to the budget.
The mayor plans to officially table the budget on December 29th. From there, the public gets 2 weeks to review it, and then council has 30 days to propose amendments.
Okay, so when exactly will the public be able to weigh in on this?
Yeah, public delegation, Stephanie, they're set for January 12th with final deliberations expected by January 26th.
There's a gaping hole in the corner unit of this townhouse complex on Burke Mountain in Coquitlam after a huge tree came crashing down during the fierce overnight windstorm.
Between 4 and 4:30, we just heard this crash, and it was so loud, and it came down and the ground shook. We knew something had happened. We just didn't know where. I thought for a second it might have hit my house, but it hit the house in the back, and it took out a children's bedroom window and destroyed the corner of that home.
The family that lives in the unit had just moved from the bedrooms to the living room during the storm, fearing trees could fall.
I'm just so grateful that they're okay. That was just, as soon as I knew they were okay, then I understand houses can be fixed, Health is something else.
From Vancouver to the Tri-Cities and the Fraser Valley, trees all over the region were uprooted or snapped in half. No match for the power of the wind.
We went to bed, then all of a sudden we heard the wind kicking up, and it was making a hell of a racket.
The wreaths that are on our windows were banging, and they kept waking us up, and then there was branches falling from trees, and they were hitting the windows and hitting the roof, and got up this morning and we saw that the tree had come down across the street and taken the power lines down.
So really significant wind speeds hit many areas and really caused a lot of power damages. And why there was so much damage, so many downed trees is really related to a couple of factors. One was all the rain we've had previously, sort of saturating the ground, and also the extended drought that we had earlier in the last couple of years, really, that have really sort of put a lot of our coniferous trees into sort of various stages of threat.
And when trees fall, inevitably, some of them hit power lines.
So at the peak of the storm, we saw about 120,000 customers without power. And the hardest hit areas are Vancouver, Surrey, and Port Moody. I think it's important to note that this marks the third major weather event this week, so our crews have been working around the clock.
Property owners and managers have been working too, clearing debris and pooling water from flooded parkades.
Just vacuum the water, that's it, and then I call the plumber.
By late afternoon, the majority of hydro customers had their power back on, but it's possible some may remain in the dark overnight.
If there are any down lines, that is our number one priority. From there, we'll move on to outages where we can restore about 5,000, and then from there, we'll go into the more localized damages.
We've had power go out before, but nothing like this.
Nothing like this, yeah. And it's been out since 1 o'clock in the morning, and there's nobody here yet, so it's kind of frustrating.
At the Burke Mountain Townhouse Complex, they're still assessing the damage. The family of 4 that lives in the impacted unit has been temporarily displaced.
They're good. I talked to them again this morning. They have a place to stay, so they're good. Everyone's okay. It could have been way worse, and so everybody's safe, and that's what really matters.
Shannon Patterson, CTV News, Coquitlam.